Before we get going, we have a few administrative things to let you guys know about. A few upcoming events. Our young professionals are doing an escape room event on April 18th. So please encourage your employees. If you're a young professional, please join us. If you have young professionals in your organization, please encourage them to join us. Not many people know this, but at a national level, we have a very engaged young professionals group compared to other regions. So we're very proud of that, and we want to keep that going. So it's a neat event. If you haven't done one of the escape rooms, it's a good team building exercise. A lot of fun things go on there, and then they're going to go to Lake Monster Brewing for just a happy hour kind of thing. So $5 for a ticket for the escape room and a drink ticket. It's pretty hard to beat. So please join us for that. May 22nd is our next breakfast meeting. We have a pretty exciting event coming up for that. Lisa Washington, who's the CEO and Executive Director of DBIA National, will be here to speak to our region about things going on in the design build industry. She's going to talk a little bit about the FMI report that came out about a year ago with some metrics on the success of design build and how it's beneficial to our industries. And then she'll also talk about upcoming trends in design build, things like progressive design build, the role of CMGC, things like that, and trends she sees at a national level, which is interesting and will ultimately make it to our region as well. So if you can make it to that, that's a really exciting event. There'll be a lot of good information shared. Please join us for that in May. We have our first annual Topgolf fundraiser coming up. We're partnered with Summit Academy. If you guys haven't heard about this, we're going to be raising money to donate to their scholarship program. So we're fortunate to have O&E as our title sponsor. There are still sponsorships available. There are still slots to register available, so please join us. I know the Topgolf thing is new to the Twin Cities. It's a pretty hot ticket. We were lucky to be able to have that event this year and get on their calendar. They're booking a long ways out, so if you have a chance, this is a great chance to get in and experience the Topgolf event area. Finally, we want to thank our sponsors, our platinum sponsor, AET. If there's anybody here from AET, thank you for sponsoring us as our platinum sponsor. Our gold sponsors, silver sponsors, and then our bronze sponsors. So if your organization doesn't currently sponsor us, look for an opportunity to do that. Still plenty of chances to do that in many different ways. So reach out to Jennifer or anybody on the board. We'd be happy to talk to you about that. Our organization runs on sponsorships. That's how we fund DBIA Upper Midwest. So it's a really important part of our business. So we're able to provide this content through sponsorship. So again, thank you if your organization does. But if you don't, please join us in sponsoring us. With that, I will hand it over to Lisa to kick off our awards program.
Welcome everybody to our 2019 DBIA Upper Midwest Region Awards Ceremony. I'm Lisa Brewer. I'm a engineer, project manager for Anderson Engineering, who just happens to be one of our award winners. There was no conflict of interest. I will start out by saying too, the only thing I did was definitely encourage them to apply to the program, because I think it's a wonderful program to recognize just some great projects that we as professionals here in Minnesota work on. So this is just a great opportunity to recognize those. So I will start with talking about what the submission process is here. Going too far. Hang on. And the judging criteria. To be considered for a DBI Upper Midwest Region Award, the projects must demonstrate implemented actions of design-build principles. Winning projects are honored for the advanced and innovative application of total integrated project delivery and the discovery of unique solutions for project challenges. The projects are expected to exhibit teamwork, innovation, and problem-solving that characterize the design-build delivery. The judging criteria shown here is broken up into 5 categories. As you can see, the design-build process, which they're looking for how their project gets contracted, how its design-build processes influence how the project is run and the results, the challenges your project has faced, cost performances, and constructability in keeping with things that are important, such as budget and scope and schedule. Teamwork is also a very big criteria. In our application process, looking at how your teams are formed, how they collaborate, and any processes you have in place to help that process along. Technology. Again, we're looking for innovative solutions to problems. All projects have unique challenges, and here we're looking for innovative solutions. Your design quality and approach is another thing, and of course, safety. All projects, we want to see all our people go home safely every night. So, and any process that encourages that is recognized as well. Our design build judges here came from different regions. This is a map of our regions of DBIA in the country. We are part of the Upper Midwest region, as you can see. Our design build judges this year came from the Ohio Valley region and also the Rocky Mountain region. So we'd like to recognize Rich Pontus, Blaine Bolger, Mandy Albrecht, and Dennis Ashley as our judges for this year. Our Design Build Merit Award this year goes to the General Mills James Ford Bell Campus, One Minneapolis Technology Center, which was submitted by McGough. And we'd like to call up Nick Schwalbe, who is the McGough project manager, and Adam Parks, their superintendent, to tell us a little bit more about their project.
So I don't talk quite as loud, so if anyone has any problems hearing me, at least raise your hand, jump up and down, something like that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Come on, I know it's early, but you can do better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
That's better. So, I'm Nick Schwalbe, project manager with McGough Construction. Co-pilot here is Adam Parks, superintendent with McGough Construction.
Affirmative.
We figured we'd freestyle rap our way through the presentations.
I hope not. I hope not.
You could probably pull it off.
You're right. I probably could.
So, on behalf of McGough Alliance, General Mills, and our subcontracting partners, we'd like to thank DBIA for recognizing the project with the longest name in the history of projects, the General Mills James Ford Bell Campus, One Minneapolis Technical Center project, with this year's Merit Award. We figured we'd start with just kind of a high-level description of how the project came to be. General Mills has, as probably most of you know, has a world headquarters off of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. They also have a couple of research and development campuses, one just north on 169 and another one that was just kind of off the U of M campus. And the intent of the project was, the project was chartered in order to try to bring those two campuses together and bring all of their R&D capabilities under one roof in their Golden Valley location. Give a shot of the building. So the project consisted of, primarily an interior renovation of 210,000 square feet. The design process was a long time in the making. I think it was roughly 5 years of planning and budgeting and looking at different scenarios in order to get the project in line with what the budget that General Mills was willing to entertain. And finally, the team was able to come up with a solution that allowed minimal brick and mortar construction. I think we only did 10,000 square feet of actual expansion on the project, and it was mostly for new condition storage space, so either freezers or coolers or hot boxes. And like I said, it was chartered as a way of consolidating basically all of their R&D capabilities under one roof. So now, with the completion of the project, they're basically able to produce and design new products for all of their product lines. So as I alluded to, it was, we've got a 30-month schedule up here, but it was probably more like 5 years in trying to get to a design that would actually work and all the projects move forward. 6 to 8 months of actual formal design process, and then there was probably, it was 4 or 5 different areas that that were designed over the course of the project, which is one of the reasons that I think design build was selected for the delivery method. It allowed design to run in parallel with the beginning of the construction. Because of the way that the project had to be built out, we built the project out in 27 smaller phases over those 22 months. So I think we had, what, a dozen phases going at the most?
13 phases going at one time, and one phase was 4 floors of an entire wing. So you can imagine that's a lot of different areas to be working in, and especially in a running, occupied facility that produces food. So the whole time while we were doing this project, General Mills was still in business, making food for sale for the general public. So
Yeah, so they have the capability to do R&D, but if needed, as some of their product lines increase in sales, or marketing does a great job and they're selling more product, the facility is able to ramp up and help supplement the production in some of their other manufacturing facilities. So how did we do it? McGough pretty typically employs what we call the last planner scheduling system. So it's the word collaboration, I suspect, is going to come up a lot in today's presentation. So it's a collaborative approach, both between design contractors and subcontractors to align on what the goals of the schedule are, both from a macro level and a micro level. So starting off with the main project schedule and then drilling all the way down to knowing what the work for the next day is going to be.
right, I mean, that's where I'm sure most of you use the last planner system, but I mean, for us, just having weekly work plans, to identify what areas we're working in an occupied facility, it's pretty standard these days, but it worked great there.
Team structure, we listed out several people here, obviously, but kind of the couple of takeaways. General Mills at one point documented, I think it was 250 people of management level or above that were involved in the coordination of the project over the course of the duration of the project. Why design build? I already alluded to it a little bit. It allowed us, from the beginning to run parallel with construction and design. General Mills is a fairly sophisticated client, and they ended up, providing some of the initial groundwork for the design that Alliance then made happen, really, in effect. But the planning process was allowed to move forward on a lot of kind of more office remodel type stuff. A lot of the beginning of the project from a design perspective was focused on some of the more equipment intense areas like pilot plants and labs and some of the more mechanical areas. Mechanical and electrical trade partners were brought in early. We did have a little bit of a budget alignment issue kind of out of the gate. We were able to kind of reel it back in, get back to where we needed to for the client's needs and move forward. Able to complete the project on time and under budget. One of the things that actually helped facilitate the schedule was in breaking this project down into so many individual phases. By executing on each of those individual phases, we effectively executed on the main project. So up front, which is fairly typical, but Alliance facilitated all kinds of meetings, did a lot of the legwork on trying to understand what existing equipment was in the facility that was being brought over to the new location, which I don't know how much time you guys had into that, but I've got to imagine it was a fairly daunting task, because not only was it individual equipment, it was process lines and everything else that had to be identified and then fit into basically the existing spaces that General Mills had at the facility. So business consolidation, we've already talked about that. Business and personnel moves, I think we brought 250 keeps popping up, but I think it was 250 people roughly were moved from from their Riverside location into the new building. And the challenge there was just, you know, we're working through all these phases, but then it's the coordination between moving people, moving equipment, and the way that had to happen in order for the equipment to be active and ready to be used when the people actually migrated over, and then shuffling people within the new space until their area was available to them. Innovations, decommissioning of the old building.
There was a yard sale. No, I think one of the things that General Mills was really good at was just identifying equipment that, I mean, most people would just say, well, it's 20 years old, let's just trash it. But we ended up, there were several conditioned storage box configurations that were disassembled from RTC and trucked over to Golden Valley and reassembled and you know, brought back up to spec, which, I mean, in the end really saved quite a bit of money rather than just trashing it and starting from scratch. I mean, it at some points it's difficult to work with existing equipment, but you know, we just recognized that, I mean, there was a value there.
And I think that was one of the challenges with the project also, because we had the integration of old systems and then inserting new systems, new equipment, and that kind of thing. So there was a high level of coordination that had to happen there as well. Team sophistication, like I had mentioned, General Mills was a great partner over the course of the project. I think as we were working through, you know, construction meetings, there was 30 to 40 people in the construction meetings on a fairly regular basis, which, you know, in order to bring all the information that comes from that many people and try to keep meetings focused and everything was also a little bit of a challenge. But both Alliance and General Mills were great partners in making sure that the construction happened in a smooth process.
I'd just like to highlight this picture. So this is, at face value, it's kind of a boring picture, but for me, this is one area where we really excelled. We put in 7 brand new air handlers in the building, and this is an existing building. And we expanded a fan loft 16 by 100 feet on both sides to accommodate these new air handlers. So if you can imagine flying air handlers over an existing building, the coordination, just moving people, you know, from below the flying area. I mean, this was one area where it's kind of just a nuts and bolts thing, but it was another difficult area where coordination was key.
So like Adam alluded to, the building was fully occupied and operational the entire time, including the 16 or 17 product runs that they had over the course of the project that all went off without a hitch. Again, just having all those people in the coordination meetings and the amount of meetings that precipitated from what needed to happen was key, having the right people in those meetings. I guess another one of the challenges that we faced was adding in a couple of decks to an existing space to give them some more floor space.
Right. One of the wings, Wing 7, there was 3 floors in the space, and they wanted to add another floor in order to support conditioned storage boxes that were being brought in. So the existing footings of the structure would not support this added weight. So we were able to utilize the west side of the building, create an opening in the building, and mind you, I wish we had a plan view of this just to show how deep into this facility we were, but we essentially cut and removed existing footings 16 feet below grade, and then excavated and poured new footings, and some of these, one footing in particular was about, that was 11 feet below grade, you know, underground, and install new structural steel, all without interrupting. We had a little bit of a laydown area on the side of the building, but that was a monumental task in itself. Just excavating inside an occupied building with electric backhoe. So if you've ever used one of those, you know how long that takes to do.
And just the material handling aspect of it as well. In a lot of the areas, we ended up having to the center stem, which is kind of the main corridor down this building, is a quarter of a mile long. I mean,
Yep.
there's a lot of time that went into material handling. And the last slide is our video.
Okay.
So safety.
Well, one of the things that this kind of illustrates what, one of the innovative ways that we did our demo safely. And so what you can see here is, this is the old exterior wall of the building, and inside this space is an existing freezer. And inside there, we built a 30-foot temp wall up to the deck inside the warehouse so they could continue with their warehouse operations. So we built the shell of this new freezer, and here we are demoing the existing brick and backup wall with our robot on a forklift.
This is supposed to be a video. I'm just trying to figure out what that
We might have to get a computer.
Gotta love technology.
Here we go. Yeah, there we go. Safety innovations that the team was able to bring to the project to keep people back away from kind of those more dangerous type tasks. I don't know how high up that was, but
Yeah, well, I guess right now that robot's probably up 10 feet, but so that wall is 100 feet long, 30 feet tall, and in one 8-hour shift, they had all but 6 feet of that wall down. So again, safety, but also production.
efficiency.
Yeah.
So that's what we had. We appreciate you guys' time. Hopefully learned something about the challenges and the adventure we were on for the course of 2 years. Thank you.
On behalf of the DBI Upper Midwest region, we'd like to present you with our 2019 Merit Award.
Thank you.
Okay, so see what's next here. Great project, thank you. Our next presentation here is the 365 Nicollet project, which is our Design Build Excellence Award, which is submitted by Opus Design Build, LLC. And today we have Jeremiah Cunningham from Opus to tell us about this interesting project.
Right.
To the right, yeah.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm going to preface this presentation by telling you that my 17-month-old daughter usually sleeps through the night and picked last night to be up on the hour every hour. So if you see me lagging up here, feel free to throw things at me. Again, 365 Nicollet. As previously mentioned, my name is Jeremiah Cunningham. I am Associate Project Manager for Opus Design Build. And my role on 365 was the interior build-out of all the residential units on this project. 365 Nicollet, oops, whoa, it's aggressive. There we go. 365 Nicollet is a 30-story residential high-rise that includes a 5-story podium. It was built at the corner of 4th Street and Nicollet Mall. And it is Skyway connected to the south to two previous Opus projects, which is 401 Nicollet, XL Energy Corporate Headquarters, and Nick on 5th. All three of these projects are part of a larger goal that Opus has pursued the past 5 years of redeveloping and revitalizing the north end of Nicollet Mall. The latest addition to this revitalization is 365 Nicollet. The tower consists of 370 residential luxury suites that range in a variety of sizes and finish packages. The building's exterior features distinctive architecture with large glass elevations and a dynamic pattern of balconies. The 5-story podium below the tower has parking, tempered parking for over 370 stalls, guest parking, as well as amenity areas, and 9,500 square feet of future retail on Nicollet Mall and Marquette Avenue. 365 is a LEED Gold certified project in the new construction category, and it is a Minnesota OSHA MinSharp Safety Award recipient. And kind of big picture on this project, it's tough to fit a project of this size into 15 minutes. We're kind of going to go 10,000 feet. And just briefly discuss kind of the team that was on this, the contract, the design-build approach, as well as construction, schedule, and design of the project. So who was involved? 365 Nicollet Residences LLC was a joint venture between the Opus Development Company and AIG Global Real Estate, who in turn hired Opus Design Build and Opus Architecture and Engineering to basically handle the design, engineering, management, scheduling, subcontract buyout, and general construction of the tower. Without getting into too many details or Opus acronyms, the Opus group was heavily involved in every aspect of this project. It was a group that was made up of many people in many different professions that worked together to deliver the vision of this project under budget and ahead of schedule. The contract used for 365 Nicollet was a standard design-build agreement with a few modifications accepted by both parties. The contract was a cost-plus fee with a guaranteed maximum price that was based off of preliminary plans and an outline specification. A shared savings provision in the contract created an extra incentive for Opus to complete the project under the GMP amount. The vision and pursuit of 365 Nicollet was a team-based approach between the design builder and the ownership. The design build process focused the owner and the design builder into one tightly knit group whose members were all pushing in the same direction. All the decisions involved in design and construction of the building were a collaborative effort between the owner and the design builder. Key factors such as schedule, fee, design, and costs were discussed transparently. This collaborative approach of design build benefited the project with open lines of communication and a single source of responsibility to address design questions, scheduling, material delays, or other common project issues. This streamlined review process ensured that the budget was met without sacrificing design intent. And now getting into the fun stuff, the construction of the project. 365 broke ground in the fall of 2016 on what was previously a flat lot across from the Minneapolis Public Library on Nicollet Mall, on what was previously referred to as the Ritz Block. And the Ritz Block, of course, was a former home of the old Ritz Hotel. The construction took place in the south half of the lot, and we set up the northwest corner half of the lot as our boneyard. And this was a place that we could bring all our materials to for our cranes to pick from, and all of our man lifts to pull material up into the project. And the southeast corner of the lot remained as a pay lot, and honestly housed all of our construction workers because they get to work so early in the mornings. They basically beat everybody out for those spots. Once the site was excavated, 100 drilled piers that ranged from 2 feet in diameter to 6 feet in diameter were drilled down 35 to 40 feet into the bedrock below. There was 100 of those. And then we poured a mat slab that was 141 feet long by 62 feet wide over the top of those piers to basically distribute the tower's load. Once all of those were in place, we were able to begin our foundations and eventually lay out, excuse me, the ramp, 5-story ramp, and of course after that the tower. And the tower predominantly sits on Nicollet Mall. The ramp and tower were constructed of PT decking and are built on top of 17 swing tables. The batch cycle was set at a floor a week and included the pouring of columns and shear walls in that same week, which is essentially 5 days. This work took a lot of coordination between structural steel, PT cabling, MEP crews, carpenters, and finishing teams. Each floor was completed in 2 separate pours with the use of a concrete placing boom, which was pumped up from the boneyard down below. Once floors were completed, the form tables were pulled out, and basically once the tables are pulled out, they're reshored from below, and then the tables are lifted right above, set, and the process would start all over again. And that's how we continued to build our tower from the bottom up. While the structure of the tower was rising at the rate of a floor a week, glass and precast enclosure was simultaneously working its way up the building. And in order to accelerate our construction schedule, we installed a temporary roof on floor 19. And what this did is that once our glass and exterior skin enclosure of the tower reached floor 19, we were enclosed from 19 on down. And this allowed us to move all our interior finish crews in months ahead of schedule. So while the upper tower is still being built above, our interior teams were able to begin below, temp power and temp heat put into that space. And essentially those interior finish crews worked in a line of a floor a week. Tapers got 2 weeks, but everyone after them, was painters and your tile guys and solid surface and so on and so forth. They each had a floor a week, and they just trained right up the building for the rest of the project. But it gave us a big bump in schedule to put in that temp roof, get everyone organized, and moving in the right direction. And our labor peaked at this point. So this is the fall of 2017, where we're working on the upper tower, and we now have crews in on the lower tower as well, and we peaked at around 200 people on a given day. With an early project completion date possible, we set a 2-phase turnover for 365 Nicollet. Phase 1 included floors 1 through 16 and all public spaces and amenity spaces to be completed by August 1st of 2018. And Phase 2 was floors 17 through 30 to complete by October of 2018. Opening the lower half of the tower for people to move in while the upper half was still under construction was made possible by putting together a comprehensive TCO, Temporary Certificate of Occupancy plan, with all of our subcontractors and working really closely with all of our inspectors before this process and through it. And we needed to work through that process not just for the TCO, but for the final C of O as well, to get our tower turned over on the correct date for the top of the tower. The building's leasing staff, this is a big deal. They're able to start moving in people in the lower tower 4 months ahead of schedule, and in the upper tower 2 months ahead of schedule. And if somebody wanted to move in at a date during the summer, say in August, to the upper tower, they could lease in the lower tower, and then once the upper tower opened, they could leapfrog up into the upper tower. But it was a big deal. It's a great time of year to move into a building like this in August or October as opposed to December, which was our original scheduled date. So it was a big leg up. It was able to bring profits in at a much earlier date to ownership and management of the building and really kind of open it up at a great time of year for people to move into the tower. And jumping into design. One of the things that set 365 Nicollet apart from other residential towers is the exterior design. It's a very Instagram-worthy tower. The exterior of the building has undulating balconies that, for a distinctive design by creating light, shadow, texture, and forms that are reflected in the glass, and the form of it changes as you get closer to the tower or as you walk around it. Other features of the building's exterior include a 15-foot tall illuminated column at the front entrance. It has podium strip lighting and balcony lighting on the tower. The podium lights actually can turn different colors, so you can go purple on a Vikings game or do different things like that. Most typical residential towers, too, this is different in that this was built to have a lot of daylighting and more vistas. So a typical tower generally has like 4 corner units, where 365 Nicollet, the way it's laid out, A typical floor has 6 corner units. So there's a lot more vistas, a lot more corner units, and a lot of daylighting in it. And just generally speaking, for a residential tower, it has a lot of glass. It's floor-to-ceiling glass on most of all the units. Speaking of units, the podium and tower are comprised of 370 units. There are 320 standard units that come in a variety of finish packages and 50 penthouse suites, which also come in a variety of finish packages and layouts. As far as size, we have studio, alcove, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom, and they basically range from pretty small, 520 square feet, to pretty big, 3,000 square feet for the units. All of the units have condo-level finishes with a variety of finish options. Items of note, of course, is the amount of daylighting, but also the spacious balconies. Balconies are just huge on these units. They're really, really big balconies. And it's also nice because the building sits on the periphery of downtown, so it doesn't matter what side you're on. You have like a really nice view of downtown where you're stepped out of the footprint of it far enough, but you're also close enough to the river where you can look up and down the entire river valley, I mean, all the way into St. Paul. All of the units come complete with quartz countertops, kitchens, bathrooms, stainless steel appliances, and upgraded casework. The penthouse units, which are located on floors 3 through 5, there's 6 of them right on Nicollet Mall, and then there's 8 of them on the 6th floor, which is our main amenity level, and then the remainder are on floors 27 through 30. Come with wood floors, fireplaces, upgraded appliances, upgraded light fixtures, customizable master bedroom closets, soaking bathtubs, and they had these really annoying motion sensing faucets that would fire off on construction vests. So if I walked in there like this, it'd be fine, but if I'm 50 feet away from that faucet with my construction vest punch listing out that unit, they'd fire off, so we actually had to turn them down a little bit for punch list time, and then you could turn them back up once we turned over. The design of the tower and the condo level finishes of the units are notable for 365 Nicollet, but the amenities and variety of public spaces set it apart from most residential towers. As you enter the building, it has a spacious lobby with 24-hour concierge hospitality and errand running services. There is a transportation hub at the back end of the building on 4th and Marquette that has real-time Uber, Lyft, taxi, and busing schedules, and a space for Uber or someone to pick you up. They can pull in off 4th Street, pull in the building, pick you up, and head out. They also have a work-from-home office space there. It's very big. It's a huge hit. Every time I'm down there, there's people working in there and leaving their units to work in the work-from-home space. And it also, on the 1st floor, has a golf sports simulator room. So you can work on your backswing on the 16th hole of Augusta, or you can do a really fancy version of duck hunt while you're down there. You can rent the room out, and you could also watch the Super Bowl in that room if you wanted to. Amenities on the 6th floor, which is predominantly where most of our amenity spaces are, has a very expansive fitness area, has a yoga studio, has a Zen relaxation room. There's a large chef's kitchen with a private dining room. The club room next to the chef's kitchen has a nano wall. So this wall is like a big glass accordion wall that opens up to the entire amenity deck, which is really nice in the summer. It just completely transforms the space. That opens up to the amenity deck, and of course the amenity deck has cabanas and fire pits and all kinds of, has a theater out on it, and it also has a very large pool and spa. And the last amenity space is the 27th floor lounge. 27th floor lounge gives anybody in the tower access to a really nice lounge with a big fireplace with views of downtown, penthouse views. You can see St. Paul in the distance, and it was a really nice ad that kind of came late in the project. I think that's it. 365 Nicollet received its C of O in October of 2018. It's currently ahead of schedule on leasing. And to tie a bow on this, I just want to emphasize again what a team effort this project was from our development team, architecture, design, engineering, management, our self-perform work crews, our design teams, everything really played such a big role in getting the vision of this project correct and getting it to the finish line on time. Well, thanks again to the DBIA and for the time, and I suppose we have any time for any questions. Let's go on. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more project to hear from this morning, and this project is our 2019 Design Build Project of the Year. The project is the Fargo National Cemetery, which was submitted by Anderson Engineering of Minnesota. And today we have Joe Lucht of Anderson Engineering and Tyler Skaggs from Valiant Construction, who is one of the partners, to tell us about the Fargo National Cemetery.
Morning, everyone. All right, the morbid project. So I'm Joe Lucht. I'm with Anderson Engineering, project manager on the AE side. This is Tyler Skaggs with Valiant Construction. We're out of Louisville, Kentucky, so go Gophers. Our office is out of Plymouth. We do a lot of federal work because we are a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. It means a couple different things. It means our president at Anderson, Roger Anderson, is a service-disabled vet, along with Patrick Roderick. And for any other veterans here, just want to say thank you for your service. Really appreciate it. The second thing that service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses provide is we get 100% set-aside projects for VA medical facilities, national cemeteries, much like Fargo National Cemetery, and any contract work that the VA sets out for. It can be maintenance contracts, it can be virtually anything that the government spends money on. So I kind of just want to touch base on kind of what that means. Oop, maybe? There we go. So Fargo National Cemetery, Fargo is the north country of us, located just outside of downtown Fargo, about 20 minutes northwest of downtown Fargo. I want to step through a little bit what the National Cemetery Administration is. It's a branch from the Department of Veterans Affairs. They deal with memorial services and design and construction projects. So for construction and design, we deal with pretty much 3 different types of pools. It's the contracting officer. Anytime you want to talk about money, modifications, anything that deals with money, you're going through the contracting officer. The PM, anything project related, if you need decisions made from their end, they will get you those answers. And then, kind of interesting, the NCA has a pool of engineers and architects that review your drawings, review your construction progress. They're there at the final walkthrough, basically giving approval on your project. So there's kind of some stats. There's 136 national cemeteries across the country. That does not include any federally funded state cemeteries or tribes. So they do a lot of work with them too. So to sum it up, the National Cemetery Administration about 10 years ago said that there was some congressional concerns in Washington that, hey, what are you doing for these rural communities? You've got these beautiful national cemeteries across the country, but guess what? They're all in these metropolitan areas. You got Fort Snelling, they got full staff service, beautiful areas. What do you do with these areas that they don't have access to these places? It's 300 miles away, a lot. So what they found out was not a lot of the veterans that are remotely living aren't using these services, are not getting buried in a national cemetery. So what the Department of Veteran Affairs did, they did an audit. They looked at all their national cemeteries. They said, okay, we need to pick specific locations so we can implement a rural national cemetery. So Fargo, North Dakota was one, and you're thinking, well, Fargo's pretty big. How do you call that rural? Well, if you think about it, Fort Snelling's about 250 miles away. The next state cemetery is in Bismarck, which is another 250 miles away. So this was a prime location to implement this rural initiative. So after they did the audit, they came up with this sketch plan and some parameters on what a rural initiative national cemetery is. It's a condensed version of a national cemetery that has all the elements of a national cemetery. The only difference is they don't have staff that's working there. Everything is administered. So bullet point on the last one, so actually Fort Snelling National Cemetery is administering this cemetery. What's that mean? They're hiring out grave diggers to actually bury the casket. They're hiring people to provide the service with the taps, 21-gun salute, all that stuff. So that's kind of how we got to, all right, we got a rural initiative, great. Now how do we get this moving? So another aspect of this was time. If you can see right here, 2013, that sketch was provided. Well, it's 2018. We don't have a cemetery yet. What's going on? Part of this process was to use the design-build model to start design, procurement, long lead items to get this thing going, and that's exactly what it did. So you can see the raw land right here. There's a model of what it looks like with that same type of concept. I'll go through this quickly. It was a two-phase design-build process proposal. Again, as mentioned, it was a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business set-aside. How they solicited it was in two phases. Phase one was team qualifications. So Valiant put together their qualifications. They teamed with us. We put our qualifications. And then they selected 3 teams to provide the construction management, schedule, and price. So yeah, we got it, we won. And then we go, what do we miss? So that was kind of the process of where Rural Initiative National Cemetery started, and now we got the project. I'll run through here briefly the master plan. So you can, if you remember that sketch, they had a real condensed type area. So this property, roughly about 3.5 acres, our goal with the NCEA's program was to maximize this site for burials. That was part of the rural initiative, is because they're seeking out separate funds from DC, they need to show that they're maximizing these properties. So you can see that there is not a lot of room on the sides, and if you've been to Fargo, you know that it's flat. So I don't have a grading plan with me here, but if you can imagine that the elevations over here are about 12 to 15 feet taller where we're tying into our existing grades. So really there is not a square inch on here that we're not moving some type of earth. I'll walk through some of the program elements and then recap with some of those some photos later. So if north is to the left on the north side, those are called pre-placed crypts. They're 3 by 8 foot concrete boxes. Basically, they call them basically 2 caskets can go in. So if Grandpa passes away, they drop Grandpa in. Grandma comes later, they drop right on top. Double depth crypt, they call that. That's on the north side. The black lines. The black is phase 1. This is what we built for phase 1. These sections here, column bearing units. I'll show you a picture of that, but they're virtually precast concrete lockers. They set the urns in there, inscribe the marble, and put them in the plaque. Some other cemetery elements, entrance road. We combined another rural initiative program element is trying to combine elements. So we had entrance feature, and on the back side is a memorial wall. So if Grandpa or Grandma pass, they want to get buried in their family's cemetery, they still have the option to get a small plaque inscribed. Some other elements, irrigation pond. This is a challenging aspect for this property. Every drop of water from rain goes to that pond. We use that pond to irrigate this whole cemetery. So if you're driving around Fort Snelling or any other cemetery during the summer, and you see There's beautiful rows of headstones and green grass. That irrigation pond is more valuable than anything. They take a lot of pride in green grass and those white headstones. Other portions of the project, got a communal service shelter and assembly area located here. More or less, that's where they have the services for the veteran, and then assembly areas for Memorial Day weekend services, so on and so forth. So what's Joe talking about these crypts? So crypts are kind of the big thing when we're talking about construction of these national cemeteries. So the photo on the top left is the drainage system. All crypt fields have about a foot of rock and drain tile that drain back to the storm sewer system. The intent is to keep them watertight. So when you go back to your second interment, it's not full of water. That's not a good thing. And it preserves the casket. The bottom left you can see semi-loads. So what's challenging about these projects on 3.5 acres, we don't have a lot of room for storage, but we got to keep product coming in the door. So that was a major challenge, and we'll probably touch on that, is how logistically on a small site we can continue to work.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, those trucks hold 8 double depth crypts per load. We had 1,400 of these crypts, and we were setting about 50 a day, so you can imagine how often trucks were coming in, unloading, storing what we could, placing the others on the side of a county road, basically.
Yeah, challenge. I like the photo on the right because it really shows the precision. When they set headstones, it's not only X, Y. If you've been to Fort Snelling, you can see those rows. They're just right on. It also counts for the Z. Headstones sit right on top of that concrete top. So that elevation, it has to be precise to get that perfect row. We all know military, it's all about order. That's where it starts. And a few other cemetery elements that I mentioned, irrigation pond, very critical point. There's a pump house associated with it, with a wet well. We can probably talk later on some of the challenges with that. Here's a picture of that memorial wall. There, everything's a row, everything is order. Same with the columbarium units. So urns go in, they inscribe the marble face, and place the plaque on that. I showed it as mid-construction just to kind of show how the thing kind of gets built.
Yeah, and just to add on to that retention pond, this site, being a rural initiative, didn't have adequate access to municipal water like you would think it should. So the entire site, like you said, is drained to that pond, is used for irrigation. We were able to get a municipal line coming to the site, but it was basically a trickle. In case there's time of a drought or anything, that line will now feed into the pond and then replenish it and still have green grass during the time of drought and whatnot. Alright, so now we'll talk more about the construction side of things. Some of the project milestones. One thing that Anderson and Valiant decided to do was in September of 2017, we met with our proposed subcontractors on site and the COR to talk about just some of the hurdles that we might run into, some of the design things, some of the soils that, us being from Kentucky, are completely different up here than they are down there. So we did that. And then master planned. Anderson and Valiant worked together with the NCA to master plan the project that you now see. And that went all the way up till basically the end of February. Construction documents are after that. During this process, Valiant and Anderson worked together to buy out the project with our subcontractors before we needed the construction. That way they can have input into the design and we can get the best quality product. On February 18th, in February of 18, we had a scheduling meeting in Fargo with our contractors again, getting everyone in the same room. The NCA actually sent a representative from Fort Snelling and the project manager on the project. We sat in that room for 6 hours hashing out the schedule, getting everyone bought into the project, and then if you had any questions, RFIs, things like that, we were able to discuss it at that time. And that is something that Valiant has since adopted for every one of our projects, and we love doing it. We started actual work in the end of April, and all the way through basically November. It was pretty cold out there when I went there my last time. And then throughout the entire project, we had daily field reports that were kept to show who was on site, what was arriving on site, what equipment was on site, and that way the owner, who was in Washington, D.C., would know what was going on. And bi-weekly progress meetings with the owner, and then eventually a final inspection in November. Through the design build process, Anderson and Valiant, like Joe said, got together early on. With the help of Anderson's knowledge, we were able to buy out the project for the most affordable and qualified contractors. Throughout the duration of the project, we battled rain, weather, anything you could expect basically. But Anderson and Valiant, our subcontractors, got together, said, hey, we got to get this project done. Ended up working 6 days and even sometimes 7-day weeks. I'd call Ed on a Saturday night and he'd be willing to answer. So that was a great benefit there. Sometimes Joe, usually it was Ed. And then as you can see in the top right picture there, the grounded P rock was spec'd. The closest place to find that rock was actually St. Cloud here in Minnesota. Through the submittal process, we were able to value engineer that rock to a local crushed P rock, saving dollars and time, and still give the veterans and the NCA the quality of the product that they expect. Both Valiant and Anderson pride ourselves in our leaders and their leadership. Our leaders believe in the teaming philosophy, which helped us from the beginning to the end of this project. We were all able to collaborate and work together to overcome challenges presented to us. As you can see on the right-hand side here, when we started construction, we thought everything was nice and dandy. Well, we started getting ready to pour the memorial wall columbarium areas. As we started doing that, we realized that some of the elevations were a little unclear, so we called Joe and Ed and Gary. And within hours, they were able to give us this sketch, not delaying the project, and still allowing us to pour concrete that afternoon. All right, technology. So Valiant adopted Procore January of last year, used it throughout this project. That really helped to streamline the submittal process between our subcontractors to Valiant, Valiant to Anderson, Anderson and Valiant to the NCA, and then back and forth. I love it now. Also, as you can see in that picture on the left-hand side there, our CAD and GPS files were needed for our earthwork and surveying crews. Anderson was able to provide that to our team and allow them to do the work that they need in the most efficient manner.
Yeah, and it really worked well in a design-build relationship because it wasn't just, well, you told me your contours are wrong. It's, no, okay, we see a problem. I mean, it was that connection to really work together where there were problems to satisfy.
And that was one thing on the crypt build, like he said, those are so precise that if one of them's off, there's an issue. Well, one of them ended up being off, and it was in the center that you'd have to pick up everything. So we worked with Anderson to try to figure out how the best way to fix that was and still provide the quality product. And that came from the GPS files that we had to where we could be that precise because they're got to be within, what, 1/8 of an inch of where they're proposed to be. So it's pretty accurate, and you're talking 1,400 of over 2 acres. On the right-hand side, we did concrete and soils testing throughout the entire project. They were on site almost every day, showing the owner that everything was compacted properly, the concrete was poured properly with the right air, right strength, and that way the NCA and the veterans know that they have a site that'll last a lifetime. Best value for dollar spent. Through our teamwork, we're also able to provide an affordable quality product. As seen in the bottom right-hand picture there, the communal shelter, we were able to survey and place the concrete footings months ahead of time when we were pouring the rest of the concrete. That way our guy didn't have to come back afterwards. The communal shelter was then installed later, and as you can see with the effort of Valiant and Anderson, our subcontractors, it's a seamless transition there with no issues. And that really shows that Anderson did their work ahead of time so we could do that and streamline the process. One thing that Valiant is proud of is that we support our team. As seen in the photo in the top right-hand picture, we create a sign that's not required by the NCA, but one that we like to do that shows all of our main subcontractors on there. This really gets them bought into the project and into the teaming philosophy, and then they're proud of the product that they had, and everyone in the city now knows that, hey, for instance, S&S Landscaping did this project. It's going to be there for a lifetime now, and people will associate them with that project. In our safety program, Valiant and Anderson have a 100% commitment to zero accident workplace. Valiant creates, through the NCA specs, we have to create a safety plan, but do it anyways, showing that our superintendent is our safety manager. He is OSHA 30-hour trained, first aid CPR certified, and we give that to Anderson. They review it, they buy into it, and the whole site works well. Our superintendent is then on site every single day, making sure everyone is wearing their proper PPE, doing daily safety checks on equipment, ladders, all that stuff, and making sure that the entire site is safe. We have a zero tolerance substance abuse policy for this reason, especially being on an NCA project, federal grounds.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it really showed, to be honest, this is my first design build project. And it really showed that teamwork is success. I mean, there's problems that happen. I'm more used to the design bid build, and you know, you play the blame game all the time, but when you establish good relationships, two firms have the same values, you get a successful project. The middle picture really sells the the project. The gentleman on the left is the undersecretary, and he's given us a little bit of crap on some of the site stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a successful project, and the NCA is happy.
And as Jesse McGee, the NCA project manager there, says, design and build process allow the National Cemetery Administration to reduce procurement workloads by issuing one contract for design and construction and reduce the project delivery time by at least a year over traditional method. This really shows the importance of a design-build project, and it shows that Valiant and Anderson were able to work together to give them the product that they want, because frankly, they were behind schedule on what they wanted to do, so we were able to pull that forward. That's it.
So there it is with some snow.
On behalf of the Design Build Institute of America, Upper Midwest region, I'd like to present your team with the Project of the Year Award. Okay, once again, I'd like to congratulate folks here at the top row here as our project winners for 2019. As you can see, a strong theme through all this has been the teamwork, the communication, the collaboration that's necessary to make a successful design build project was successfully done by all these groups here. So I'd like to again congratulate all of you. And I especially like to thank our presenters that were able to share their very interesting projects, how they overcame the challenges, how they had to work together with their entire teams. Found them all different, but all very interesting. So again, thank you to all you presenters on these projects. Okay, a little more housekeeping before I dismiss you. For all you award winners up front, a couple of your teams do have some additional trophies and certificates that are up here at the front for you to claim. We also would like you to stop in the back corner with Paul. Raise your hand, Paul. He's going to be our official photographer to take some pictures of each of the teams, so make sure you visit Paul in the back corner there for pictures. And again, as John mentioned at the top of our program, we have these upcoming events, a couple in April and May yet this year that we'd love to have you back here at our DBI meetings for. And with that, you are all dismissed. Thank you for coming again.
Thank you.